What if I told you that the moment your family calls you useless could actually be the moment your real life begins? Before I share this story, hit the subscribe button, like and turn on your notification bell, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. I love connecting with viewers from around the world, and your support means everything to me. The champagne bubbles caught the afternoon light as I raised my glass, thinking this would be the perfect celebration of my 45th birthday. I had spent weeks planning every detail, the floral arrangements, the menu, the guest list. Our dining room sparkled with crystal and silver, filled with the warm chatter of family and friends. My husband Robert looked distinguished in his navy suit as he stood to make a toast. After 25 years of marriage, I still felt that flutter of pride watching him command a room. Our children, Emma and Luke, sat at the table looking polished and successful, everything I had sacrificed to help them become. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert began, his corporate executive voice filling the room. Today we celebrate Sarah's 45th birthday. The applause felt warm against my skin. I smoothed my dress, the expensive one I'd bought for this special day, and smiled expectantly. What beautiful words would my husband share about our journey together? But I also have an important announcement, he continued, his eyes finding mine with laser precision. Starting today, all household expenses will be split equally between Sarah and me. 50-50, right down the middle. The room went silent. I felt like I was falling through space, watching my own life from a distance. Split expenses? After 25 years of managing every aspect of our home, raising our children, and supporting his career moves across 3 different cities? I've carried this family financially for over 2 decades, Robert declared to our stunned guests. I've paid for every dress she wears, every meal she eats, every luxury she enjoys. The kids are adults now, and I'm tired of being treated like a personal ATM. It's time Sarah learned to contribute equally. The whispers started immediately. Sharp, cutting voices that felt like knives. Well, Robert has a point. She can't expect to be supported forever. Look at that expensive dress. All from Robert's hard work. About time she got a reality check. I searched desperately for my children's faces. Emma, my brilliant daughter who I'd driven to every music lesson, every debate tournament, every college interview, she was staring at her phone, deliberately avoiding my eyes. Luke, my sweet boy who I'd nurtured through every scraped knee and broken heart, he was scrolling through social media as if nothing was happening. 25 years of my life had just been dismissed as worthless in front of everyone I cared about. And the people I loved most were either attacking me or pretending not to see my humiliation. Something inside me cracked, but instead of shattering into pieces, it crystallized into cold, clear determination. I stood slowly, every eye in the room tracking my movement. Without saying a word, I unclasped the diamond necklace Robert had given me for Christmas, a last-minute purchase from the mall, still in its generic gift box. I placed it gently on the white tablecloth. As you wish, I said quietly, my voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Then I walked out of the house that had been my world for 25 years, my spine straight and my head high. I drove to my late aunt's cottage on the outskirts of town, a place that had sat empty for years. As I pushed open the dusty front door, memories flooded back of summer afternoons spent there as a child, learning about my aunt's incredible life as a successful businesswoman. In the attic, I found what I was looking for, a weathered metal box that my aunt had left me in her will. Inside were documents I'd forgotten about, property deeds, stock certificates, trust fund papers. My aunt had quietly built a real estate empire and left it all to me, knowing that one day I might need the independence she'd fought so hard to achieve. The properties were in prime locations. The stock portfolios had grown substantially. The trust funds generated enough income to live comfortably for life. I wasn't the helpless dependent Robert had portrayed me as, I was actually wealthier than he'd ever been. My best friend Jessica arrived within an hour of my phone call, bringing wine and fierce loyalty. As we sat surrounded by the documents of my hidden financial independence, I felt something I hadn't experienced in decades, the thrill of possibility. "So what's the plan?" Jessica asked, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. I looked at the deed to a beautiful storefront property downtown. "I'm opening a cafe. Something elegant and sophisticated. A place where people like me, people who've been underestimated, can find their power again." Within 3 weeks, Second Chances Café opened its doors. The renovation had been swift and stunning, transforming the space into an oasis of warm lighting, comfortable seating, and the most incredible coffee and pastries in the city. Jessica used her marketing connections to create buzz, and soon we had lines out the door. The first phone call came from Luke. "Mom, where are you? There's no food in the house and all my shirts are dirty. Dad says you need to come back and handle your responsibilities." I was arranging fresh flowers at the cafe counter. "Luke, your father wanted everything split 50-50, remember? That includes household chores. You're 23, it's time you learn to do your own laundry." The silence on the other end was telling. "But Mom, I have that important presentation next week. I hung up gently and turned off my phone. Robert's call came next, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Sarah, the utilities have been shut off. What's the meaning of this?" I was training a new barista, showing her how to create the perfect foam art. "The utility accounts were in my name, Robert. Since we're splitting everything now, I closed them. You'll need to open new accounts yourself." "You can't do this. I don't have access to the property deeds." "That sounds like a problem you'll need to solve." The beautiful irony wasn't lost on me. The house Robert had lived in for 25 years, the one he'd felt so entitled to, was actually mine, inherited from my aunt along with everything else. Business boomed. Food bloggers discovered us, social media influencers couldn't stop posting about our atmosphere, and we became the place where successful women came to network and celebrate. The cafe's origin story, a woman reclaiming her power after family betrayal, resonated with so many people that we were featured in magazines and local news. Then Robert showed up. He entered during the lunch rush with some woman I didn't recognize, probably his secretary, based on how she clung to his arm. They chose the most visible table and began speaking loudly about the cafe's amateur decor and overpriced menu. I didn't send a server over. Instead, I approached their table myself with a professional smile. "Good afternoon. What can I get you today?" Robert ordered the most expensive items on the menu with exaggerated superiority, as if he were doing me a tremendous favor. His companion, who I learned was indeed his secretary, Amanda, looked me up and down with poorly concealed smugness. I served their order personally and watched them eat while making increasingly nasty comments about the food, the service, and the desperate middle-aged woman playing businesswoman. When they finished and prepared to leave, I presented them with their bill, $247. Robert's face went white, then red. $247 for lunch? This is robbery. I maintained my professional demeanor. All prices are clearly listed on our menu. The premium ingredients and artisanal preparation justify the cost. I paused, letting my smile turn slightly sharp. Besides, Robert, you were the one who insisted on splitting all expenses. This meal is entirely your responsibility. The entire cafe had gone quiet, watching the drama unfold. Robert fumbled for his wallet, his hands shaking with humiliation as he realized he was trapped by his own logic. The look on Amanda's face as she watched her successful boyfriend struggle to pay for lunch was priceless. But my true vindication came 6 months later. Robert had been struggling financially, secretly using credit cards to maintain his lifestyle. When those ran out, he tried to sell what he thought was our investment property to impress Amanda with an expensive vacation. The real estate agent had to break some unfortunate news. "I'm sorry, Mr. Robert, but you're not listed as an owner of this property. Only Sarah has the legal authority to sell it. That's when the reality of his situation finally hit him. The house he'd lived in, the car he drove, the lifestyle he'd maintained, none of it had ever really been his. My quiet management of our finances over 25 years hadn't been dependency, it had been me protecting assets he didn't even know existed. The divorce papers were drawn up within a week. Emma was the first to reach out after the legal proceedings began. She appeared at the cafe one evening after closing, her eyes red from crying. "Mom, I had no idea about any of this. About Dad's affair, about the properties, about how he'd been treating you." She sat across from me in the empty cafe, wrapping her hands around a warm mug of tea. "When you needed me most, I just looked away. I'm so ashamed." Looking at my daughter, really seeing her for the first time in years, I felt the ice around my heart begin to crack. Not enough to forget, but enough to consider forgiveness might be possible someday. "I'm proud of what you've built here," she continued. "And I want to help, if you'll let me. I know I don't deserve it, but I want to earn back your trust." Emma moved into the apartment above the cafe and threw herself into learning the business. She had inherited my eye for detail and her father's head for numbers, making her invaluable as we expanded to a second location. Luke took longer to come around. Without his comfortable safety net, he struggled in the real world. His cushy job at his father's friend's company disappeared when word spread about the family drama. He was forced to take a series of minimum wage positions, learning for the first time what actual work felt like. One rainy Thursday evening, he appeared at the cafe's back entrance, soaked and exhausted from his delivery job. "Mom," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I know I don't deserve to ask for anything. But could you? Could you just tell me you don't hate me?" I looked at my son, thinner now, with calloused hands and tired eyes, but somehow more real than he'd been in years. "I don't hate you, Luke. I'm disappointed in the man you became, but I don't hate you." He nodded, tears mixing with rainwater on his face. "I'm going to keep working. Keep trying to become someone you could be proud of again. I won't ask for help, but maybe someday you could see who I'm becoming instead of who I was." As for Robert, the consequences of his choices caught up with him swiftly. Without access to our assets, which had never actually been ours, his lifestyle collapsed. Amanda left him the moment she realized he wasn't the wealthy executive she'd thought she was winning. His retirement account, which he'd always bragged about, turned out to be an annuity policy purchased years ago by my aunt's financial advisor as part of my inheritance planning. He ended up in a studio apartment across town, working part-time at a hardware store to make ends meet. The final confrontation came on a winter evening. Robert appeared at the cafe just before closing, looking decades older than his 50 years. His hair had gone completely gray, and he moved with the defeated posture of a man who'd lost everything. He didn't cause a scene this time. He simply stood by the counter as I finished cleaning, waiting until I acknowledged him. "Sarah," he said quietly. "I know I have no right to ask for anything. But I'm lost. I don't know how to live without the life you built for us." I studied the man I'd shared 25 years with. "Do you know why I stayed silent for so long, Robert?" He shook his head. "Because I believed that love meant making myself smaller so others could feel bigger. I thought my value came from how well I served everyone else's needs." I set down my cleaning cloth. "But you taught me something important that night at my birthday party. You showed me that no amount of sacrifice would ever be enough for someone determined to see me as worthless." I walked to the safe and pulled out an envelope I'd prepared months ago. "There's enough money in here for a security deposit on a decent apartment and 3 months' rent. After that, you're on your own." His hands trembled as he took the envelope. "Why are you helping me?" "Not for you," I said simply. "For the woman I used to be, who believed everyone deserved compassion. Consider it my final gift to my former self. 2 years later, Second Chances Café had grown into a small empire. We had 5 locations, a catering business, and a foundation that provided small business loans to women starting over after major life changes. Emma had become my full business partner, and her innovative marketing strategies had made us a regional success story. Luke worked his way up from delivery driver to assistant manager at a logistics company. He sent me a card every Mother's Day, not asking for anything, just letting me know he was still working on becoming someone worthy of my pride. And Robert? I heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd found work as a bookkeeper for a small nonprofit. He lived quietly, alone, in a modest apartment. Sometimes I wondered if he'd learned anything from losing everything, or if he simply blamed everyone else for his downfall. On the 3rd anniversary of my liberation, we threw a celebration at the flagship cafe. The room buzzed with the energy of successful women, many of whom had their own stories of reclaiming their power. Business partners, employees, friends, and Emma filled the space with laughter and celebration. As I raised my glass to toast our success, I caught a glimpse of movement outside the window. Luke stood across the street in his work uniform, watching the celebration with a small smile. He didn't try to interrupt or insert himself into the moment, he simply watched his mother's triumph from a respectful distance, then nodded once and disappeared into the evening crowd. I raised my glass higher, toasting not just my success, but the hard-won knowledge that sometimes losing everything is the only way to discover who you really are. The woman who walked out of that birthday party humiliation was lost and broken. The woman standing here today was strong, independent, and surrounded by people who valued her for exactly who she was. Sometimes, the greatest gift life gives you is showing you exactly what you're worth when you stop settling for less. Your support has carried me through this entire journey, and now I want to hear from you. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. It helps more people find these stories of resilience and transformation. But most importantly, drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had to rebuild your life after being underestimated or betrayed by people you trusted? Your stories matter, and they inspire others who might be going through similar struggles. If you have a story of overcoming family betrayal, workplace discrimination, or any situation where you had to reclaim your power, share it in the comments. With your permission, we feature viewer stories on our channel because everyone deserves to have their comeback celebrated. Remember, you are stronger than you know, more valuable than others might see, and absolutely capable of building the life you deserve. Sometimes the people who try to diminish you are simply revealing their own limitations, not yours. Keep fighting for the life you deserve, and I'll see you in the next video.